The Big Muscular Princess No Man Wanted to Marry Part 1. 15-second hook. In the heart of an ancient African kingdom, there lived a princess unlike any other, towering, powerful, and feared by the very men expected to love her. But strength, as she would learn, is both a blessing and a curse, and her journey to acceptance would shake the kingdom to its core. Part 1. Around 2,000 words. The drums of the Zuberi kingdom echoed across the golden plains, rolling like distant thunder as the sun melted into the horizon. Villagers gathered in a wide circle, their bodies swaying to rhythms older than memory. Tonight was the Festival of Daughters, a sacred night when fathers proudly presented their young women before the elders, where potential marriage matches were whispered, and futures were quietly shaped. But even with all the colors, joy, and music floating through the air, there was one figure everyone was waiting for, and one figure everyone feared to look at directly. Princess Zahara. The towering daughter of King Jalo and Queen Maku, Zahara was unlike any princess the tribes had ever seen. While other girls grew slender and graceful, Zahara grew fierce and powerful. By 12, she could lift a full water drum that grown warriors struggled to move. By 15, she was taller than most men, her shoulders broad, her arms carved with strength gained from climbing trees, running with hunters, and training with the palace guards. Her hair was thick and wild like the mane of a lioness, and her skin glowed deep bronze in the sunlight. To some, she was a marvel. To many, she was a warning from the spirits. To herself, she was a lonely soul trapped in a body she did not choose. As she stepped into the clearing, the drums softened. Heads turned. The whispering began. That girl is too big. No man wants a wife stronger than him. She will crush her husband on the wedding night. She should have been born a boy. Zahara heard every word. She always did. Still, she held her head high, her mother's lesson echoing in her heart. Strength is not your shame, Queen Maku had told her many nights. It is your story. Do not let anyone take your story from you. But Zahara wished, deeply, painfully, that for just one moment she could be normal. Small. Delicate. Wanted. King Jalo stepped forward, his lion-hide cloak sweeping behind him. He was a proud man, stern but fair, and though he loved Zahara fiercely, even he could not hide the worry in his eyes. My daughter, he whispered. Tonight, walk with grace. Not strength. Let them see your gentleness. Zahara forced a small smile and nodded. She longed to be gentle. But gentleness seemed to vanish whenever she entered a room. Her very presence felt like a storm. As she walked toward the circle of elders, men shifted aside instinctively, some out of fear, others out of embarrassment. No man wanted to be caught standing next to her. She made them look smaller. The lead elder, old grandfather Omari, studied her with cloudy eyes. Princess Zahara, he announced, daughter of Jalo, child of the Zuberi line, step forward. She did. The ground felt fragile beneath her heavy footsteps. Many suitors were invited tonight, Omari continued, for the kingdom seeks to secure alliances. Let the young men approach one by one. A silence followed. A painful, choking silence. No one moved. Zahara's heart pounded in her ears. Then, slowly, one young man stepped forward, Tunde, son of a chief. Zahara recognized him. They had played together as children, before she grew too fast, before people stopped letting their sons come near her. He swallowed hard as he approached. The elders watched. The crowd murmured. Zahara held her breath. Tunde looked up at her, he barely reached her chin, and forced a smile. Princess Zahara, he said, you look strong. His voice cracked. He cleared his throat. But I must speak truthfully. My father says a wife must be gentle, soft like river water. And you are a storm. He stepped back into the crowd without waiting for her reply. The whispering grew again, louder now. Who would marry her? No one wants a giant woman. Even warriors fear her. Zahara felt heat rise behind her eyes. Her fists clenched at her sides. She wanted to scream. She wanted to disappear. She wanted, more than anything, not to cry in front of them. Another man stepped forward, then stopped halfway, shaking his head and turning back. 3 more didn't even bother to step forward. Not one chose her. Queen Maku stood in the shadows watching her daughter die a little inside. King Jalo, embarrassed and angry, dismissed the gathering early. The drums stopped. The people drifted away. The festival ended in awkward silence. When Zahara turned toward her father, he had already walked off, avoiding her eyes. That hurt worst of all. She wandered alone to the riverbank, where fireflies danced above the water like floating stars. She sank onto a fallen log and buried her face in her hands. "Why am I like this?" she whispered into her palms. "Why did the spirits make me this way? Why can't I be small like the others, soft like the others?" Her voice cracked. "Why am I the princess nobody wants?" The river didn't answer. The trees didn't whisper back. But footsteps approached quietly from behind. It was not a guard. Not a servant. Not her mother. It was Kanu, the kingdom's most respected warrior. A man known for hunting lions barehanded, for wrestling crocodiles, for surviving battles that left others dead. He was the only person in the kingdom whose strength came close to hers. Zahara quickly wiped her face. "I'm fine," she lied. Kanu didn't sit beside her. He simply stood near, arms crossed, eyes on the moonlit water. "You should not hide your tears," he said. "Even rivers overflow." Zahara clenched her jaw. "I don't want anyone, especially you, to see me like this." "Why especially me?" "Because you're everything I'm supposed to be. Strong. Respected. Admired. Nobody laughs at you." Kanu finally turned his head toward her, expression unreadable. "Do you think my strength was always admired? When I was a boy, others feared me. Thought I was cursed. Thought I would become dangerous." "You are not alone in being misunderstood." "That's different," she muttered. "No, it is not." Zahara picked at a blade of grass. "If strength is so great, why does it make people run from me? Why does it make men reject me?" Kanu paused before answering. "Because most men do not know how to stand beside someone powerful without feeling small." His voice softened. "Their weakness is not your fault." Zahara looked up at him, surprised. Kanu continued, "Strength frightens people until they need it." He studied her face. "And one day, princess, they will need yours." Zahara didn't believe him, but something about his tone soothed her heart, like warm sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "Still," she sighed. "I just want someone to love me." Kanu nodded slowly. "That is the desire of every soul. But love is not found by becoming smaller for others. If someone must shrink you to feel tall, their love is worthless." Zahara stared at the warrior with new eyes. "Then what should I do?" He stepped back toward the path. "Live. Shine. Be strong without apology. The one who is meant for you will not fear your shadow." He began to walk away, then stopped. "And princess, the spirits do not make mistakes." When he disappeared into the trees, the river suddenly felt less cold. Less lonely. But the peace did not last. 2 nights later, disaster struck the kingdom. A roar echoed from the eastern hills, a terrifying, bone-shaking roar that made even the bravest warriors stiffen. The fire-maner lion, a monstrous beast spoken of in legends, had returned after decades. With a maner that glowed like burning embers and claws that shredded iron, it had once destroyed entire villages before vanishing into the mountains. Now it was back. And it was heading straight for the Zuberi kingdom. Panic tore through the people. Women grabbed children. Elders prayed. Warriors armed themselves, though many trembled, knowing even Kanu himself had never faced such a creature. When the beast stepped into the moonlit fields, its body massive as a boulder, its eyes burning red, the ground shook beneath its paws. King Jalo shouted, "Protect the kingdom! Shields up!" But even the bravest warriors hesitated. The lion roared again, sparks flying from its mouth. And that was when Zahara stepped forward. Alone. Barehanded. Her heart pounded, fear clawing at her ribs, but something fierce sparked inside her. A calling. A purpose. For once, no one whispered. No one mocked. Everyone watched. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself. Maybe, this is why I was made strong. Part 2. Around 2,000 words. The fire-manel lion's breath scorched the night air as its massive form stepped closer to the trembling warriors. Its mane glowed like molten metal, sending orange flickers across the faces of the villagers huddled behind the protective line of shields. But the shields shook. The warriors shook. Only one figure stood firm, Princess Zahara. Her heartbeat thundered, but her feet were steady as roots buried deep in the earth. Every instinct screamed at her to run, yet something deeper pulled her forward. Something ancient. Something that felt like destiny calling her name. Behind her, King Jalo shouted desperately, Zahara, step back. That is not your battle. But Zahara did not move. She didn't even turn her head. For once in her life, she wasn't thinking about who was watching her, or judging her, or whispering ugliness behind her back. For once, she stood not as the unwanted princess, but as a protector of her people. The fire-manel lion roared again, the sound ripping through the sky. Zahara felt the force of it push against her chest, but she didn't flinch. Konu rushed up beside the king, gripping his spear. Your Majesty, she will die. King Jalo's voice cracked. She is my only daughter. But she is also the only one who does not fear the beast, Konu answered softly. And it was true. For the first time in her life, Zahara's size, her strength, felt like a blessing rather than a curse. The giant lion lowered its head, its ember eyes burning into hers. Zahara inhaled sharply. The heat rolling off the creature stung her skin like the sun itself. She whispered to herself, Be brave, please, be brave. The lion lunged. Gasps tore through the air. Zahara dove aside, rolling across the dirt just as the beast's claws tore into the ground where she stood. The earth split open. Dust flew. Sparks burst from the lion's mane as it turned toward her with a furious snarl. Zahara scrambled to her feet. Come on, she whispered. If I run, everyone dies. If I stand, maybe I save them. The lion charged again, faster this time. Zahara grabbed a fallen spear, but the wood snapped in her hands from the beast's force as she blocked the first blow. She stumbled backward, coughing from the heat, eyes watering. The animal was even more monstrous up close, its breath hot enough to scorch leaves, its roar vibrating inside her bones. Konu shouted from behind, Zahara, fall back. We will fight with you. But Zahara shook her head. No. If it reaches the village, everyone will die. I must hold it here. She didn't know how long she could hold it, but she knew she had to try. The lion leaped, claws glowing. Zahara ducked and jammed her shoulder into its side with every ounce of strength she possessed. The impact shook through her body, and the massive creature stumbled. Only for a moment, but it shocked even the warriors. Whispers rippled across the field. She pushed it back. By the ancestors, she's matching it. Zahara didn't hear them. All she heard was blood rushing in her ears. The lion roared in fury and swung its tail. Zahara was thrown off her feet, crashing against a boulder so hard the stone cracked. Pain shot up her back, but she forced herself up again, gripping a rock for balance. Her breath came in sharp, painful gasps. Get up, Zahara, get up, she told herself. The lion stalked closer, its mane blazing brighter, each breath sparking tiny flames on the grass. Zahara looked at its drifting embers and suddenly remembered something, old stories her mother used to tell her as a little girl. Fire fears the river, her mother had said while washing her hair in the cool stream. It rages, but water humbles it. Water. Zahara's gaze flicked toward the river behind the trees. Close, so close. But the lion was blocking the way. Unless. Her eyes narrowed. If I can get behind it. She took a shaky breath, grabbed a nearby broken spearhead, and hurled it at the beast's snout. It wasn't meant to wound, just to anger. And it worked. The fireman lion roared, furious, and charged. Zahara waited, 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 then dove aside at the last possible second. The beast slid past her, skidding in the dirt, leaving a fiery trail. Zahara sprinted into the trees, ignoring the pain in her ribs. The lion followed, crashing through trunks, burning leaves with every step. Villagers screamed from afar. King Jalo fell to his knees. My daughter. Konu clenched his jaw. She's leading it somewhere. Zahara reached the riverbank, chest heaving. The moon reflected on the surface like a white eye watching her. She turned just as the lion burst through the trees. She leaped backward into the river. The lion followed, half leaping, half falling. And the instant its flaming menere touched the water, steam exploded into the air. Zahara swam deeper, kicking with powerful strokes. The beast roared in agony as the water hissed and sizzled around it. Its menere dimmed, sparks dying. Its heat faded. But even weakened, it was deadly. Its claws slashed through the water and struck Zahara's leg. Pain seared up her thigh as blood poured into the river. She gasped, water filling her mouth, sputtering as she kicked away. The lion thrashed, staggering out of the river, alive, but drained of fire. Zahara struggled onto the bank, dragging herself through the mud. She could barely stand. The lion recovered faster. It lunged. Zahara's vision blurred. She whispered one last plea. Spirits, help me. The lion's jaws opened. A spear collided with its skull. The beast roared and stumbled back. Konu appeared beside her like a storm, another spear already in hand. His chest heaved, sweat pouring down his face. You weakened it. I'll finish it. No, Zahara groaned. Together. Konu hesitated only a moment, then nodded. The lion shook its head and charged them both. Zahara roared back, lifting a large branch like a club. Konu sprinted to the side, circling the beast. Zahara swung the branch with all her remaining strength. The wood shattered against the lion's jaw, but the impact slowed it long enough for Konu to leap onto its back. He drove his spear deep into the creature's neck. The lion bucked wildly, throwing him off. Zahara grabbed the spear before it fell and thrust it forward again, aiming for its throat. The lion's final roar tore through the land, then faded into silence. Its massive body collapsed. Steam rose around it, the last remnants of its fiery spirit dissolving into the cold night air. For a long moment, Zahara simply knelt there, gasping, shaking. Mud covered her. Blood seeped from her leg. Her arms felt like they were made of stone. But she was alive. And the beast was not. The villagers began to emerge from the trees, stunned into silence. One by one, people stepped closer, their eyes wide with disbelief, fear, awe, admiration. Someone whispered, "She saved us." Another voice followed, trembling. "She faced it alone." A third voice rose louder. "The princess is a warrior." Konu helped her stand, steadying her. "Zahara, you did what no warrior in history has done." Zahara stared at the fallen beast, breath uneven. I didn't want anyone to die." Konu smiled faintly. "And that is why your strength is a blessing." When King Jalo reached her, tears streamed down his face, tears Zahara had never seen from him before. He cupped her face in both hands. "My daughter, my brave, beautiful daughter, forgive me for the shame I allowed others to put on you." Zahara's voice broke. "I only wanted to make you proud." "You have," he whispered. "More than you could ever know." The crowd gathered around her, some bowing, others reaching to touch her hands. For the first time in her life, Zahara felt something she had never tasted before. Respect. But the night was not done revealing its secrets. From the northern ridge, a shadowy figure watched. Tall, cloaked, face hidden beneath carved wooden ornaments. The stranger gazed at Zahara with piercing interest, then turned away quietly. Unseen, unnoticed, but not without purpose. And as Zahara limped back toward the village, Unaware of the eyes following her, she could not shake one truth. Killing the beast had changed everything. But destiny was only beginning to unfold. Part 3. Around 2,000 words. The village did not sleep that night. Torches burned through the darkness as healers rushed in and out of the royal hut, carrying bowls of herbs, steaming waters, and cloths soaked in healing oils. The scent of crushed leaves and burning sage filled the air. Warriors stood guard at every entrance, still shaken by the battle with the fireman lion. Inside, Zahara lay on a woven mat, her leg wrapped in thick layers of cloth, her breath slow but steady. The edges of the wound still throbbed, but the healers assured her she would recover, though the scar would remain for life. She didn't mind. Scars told stories. And for the first time, she felt her story was one worth telling. Queen Maku sat beside her, gently stroking Zahara's wild mane of hair. Her eyes were swollen from crying. "I feared losing you," she whispered. "I have never known fear like that." Zahara turned her head weakly. "I feared losing all of you. And yet you ran toward danger, not away from it." Zahara managed a tired smile. "Someone had to." "You were always that someone," her mother murmured. "Even when you were a child. Do you remember the day you climbed the baobab tree to rescue that little boy's kite?" Zahara chuckled softly. "I remember falling out of the tree afterward." Queen Marka laughed through her tears. "You scared the spirit out of me that day." Her laughter faded into a gentle, lingering silence. Then she said something Zahara had been waiting her whole life to hear. "I am proud of you. More proud than words can hold." Zahara closed her eyes, letting the warmth of her mother's words seep into the cold corners of her heart. But outside the hut, not everyone felt warmth. Whispers filled the air. "She killed the beast. She is stronger than a dozen warriors. If she can defeat a monster, what man can stand beside her now?" Even in victory, Zahara remained a puzzle the kingdom did not know how to solve. And far away, hidden from sight, the mysterious stranger who had watched the battle from the ridge walked toward the tribal borderlands. He carried a long staff carved with ancient symbols. His cloak was torn and burned in several places, as if he had traveled through fire itself. When he reached the edge of the forest, a young man approached him, lean, sharp-eyed, with a scar across his cheek. "Master," the young man said, bowing his head. "Did you see it?" The stranger nodded. "I saw everything." "And the princess, is she truly the one you foresaw?" The cloaked figure's voice was rough, echoed with age. "Yes. The strength in her is not merely physical. It is spirit-born. She is the key." The young man's eyes flickered with uncertainty. "Key to what?" But the stranger did not answer. He tapped his staff twice against the earth, and the ground responded with a faint rumble. "Prepare the others," he said. "The time of testing begins soon." Back in the Zuberi kingdom, 3 days passed. Zahara's wounds healed slowly, but her spirits rose faster than her body. People who once avoided her now stepped forward to gift her baskets of fruits, hand-woven bracelets, and carved wooden figurines. Children followed her wherever she walked, pretending to fight imaginary lions. For the first time, she felt seen for who she truly was, not a mistake of nature, not a burden, but a protector. Yet one thing remained unchanged. No man approached her with interest. They bowed in respect, yes. They praised her bravery, yes. But none saw her as a woman. Only a warrior. And late at night, when the village slept, Zahara returned to the river, staring at her reflection on the water. A giant. A weapon. A hero. But still alone. One evening, as the sky turned red with sunset, Konu approached her at the water's edge. He was dressed in his night leathers, his hair braided tightly, his face thoughtful. "You've been quiet these days," he said gently. "I've been thinking," Zahara replied. "Thinking can be dangerous," he said with a half-smile, sitting beside her. "What troubles you?" Zahara dipped her fingers into the water. "Everyone praises my strength now. But no one wants anything more from me. They see me as a savior, not a woman." Konu's expression softened. Those who fear what they do not understand often hide behind praise. They think if they honor you enough, you won't notice their cowardice. Zahara sighed. Do you think I am too much? Konu turned to face her. I think you are exactly enough. Her breath caught. You don't mean that. I do. He leaned closer, searching her eyes. The world fears powerful women because they do not know how to rise to meet them. But I see you as you are, strong, yes, but also kind, brave, but also gentle when it matters. Zahara's heart thumped painfully. She hadn't expected warmth. Not here. Not ever. But before she could speak, the sound of pounding feet interrupted them. A warrior came rushing toward them, breathless. Princess! Warrior Konu! The king summons you both. Quickly. Konu stood instantly. What has happened? The warrior swallowed. A messenger has arrived from the distant Ngala tribe. He brings troubling news. Zahara felt her stomach tighten. What news? The messenger was waiting in the royal hut when they arrived. He wore a cloak of eagle feathers, a symbol of the Ngala. His face was streaked with white paint, marking him as a runner who traveled great distances without rest. When he saw Zahara, his eyes widened slightly, both in awe and uncertainty. He bowed low. Princess! Warrior Konu King Jilo. King Jilo nodded. Speak. The messenger inhaled sharply. The Ngala tribe has been struck by a curse. A murmur spread through the hut. What curse? The queen asked. A shadow creature, the messenger said, trembling. One that moves like mist and kills without touch. Our warriors' spears pass through it as if striking air. Our medicine men cannot banish it. Our children hide in caves. Our elders cannot sleep. Zahara stepped forward. What does this have to do with us? The messenger looked at her with desperation. We heard of what you did, of how you defeated the fireman lion. He swallowed. Our chiefs believe you may be the only one capable of facing this creature. They beg for your help. Zahara froze. Konu frowned. A spirit creature is far different from a flesh and blood beast. The king clenched his jaw. My daughter nearly died facing the lion. Queen Maku gripped Zahara's arm tightly. But the messenger pressed on. The creature is traveling, growing. If we cannot stop it, it may spread to other kingdoms, even yours. The hut fell silent. Zahara's pulse quickened. She felt the weight of the kingdom pressing against her, memories of whispers echoing across her mind. Too big. Too strong. She will never be a bride. She will never be loved. She had spent years wishing she was smaller. Now she wondered if she had been made large for a reason. Konu stepped closer to her side. Whatever you choose, I will stand with you. His words bolstered her. Zahara looked at her father. I will go, she said softly but firmly. Queen Maku gasped. Zahara. The king looked torn between pride and terror. This is not your burden. But it is, Zahara said. I was born with this strength for a reason. And if I can save another tribe, save their children, their families, how can I stay here and do nothing? Konu nodded. Then we leave at dawn. The messenger bowed deeply. The Ngala tribe will welcome you as a savior. But Zahara wasn't seeking worship. She was seeking purpose. And something deeper she couldn't yet name. That night, as Zahara prepared for the journey, she stood once more at the river. The moon shimmered across the water like a silver veil. She whispered to the spirits, Please guide me. If I am meant for more than loneliness, show me. The wind stirred gently. Then a voice echoed behind her, soft, deep, familiar. You are not alone. She turned. Konu stood there, holding a spear in one hand and a woven necklace in the other. What is that? She asked. He stepped closer. A warrior's charm. For protection. My mother gave it to me when I was young, but I think you need it more than I do. Zahara's throat tightened. Konu, I don't know what to say. Then say nothing.
He placed the necklace over her neck. Just come back alive. Their eyes locked.
Something shifted between them, something Zahara had never felt before.
Not pity. Not fear. Not forced respect.
But recognition. She wanted to speak, to ask if he could ever see her as more than a warrior, but the moment was delicate, fragile, and she feared breaking it.
So she nodded.
I will come back, she whispered.
He smiled. I know.
As Konu walked away, Zahara looked down at the necklace and felt warmth spread across her chest. She didn't know that far across the kingdom, the cloaked stranger was preparing for her arrival.
Or that the creature she was going to face was not merely a shadow,
but a test woven into her fate long before she was born. Part 4, around 2,000 words. The dawn sky stretched over the kingdom like a faded orange cloth as Princess Zahara, Konu, and a small escort of warriors began their journey toward the distant Ngala tribe. The air was cool, the earth still wet with dawn dew, and every step Zahara took echoed with the weight of what lay ahead.
Birds cried overhead.
The savanna grass swayed in slow waves, brushing against Zahara's legs as if trying to offer comfort. But her mind was restless, filled with jagged questions.
What kind of creature moved like mist?
What danger lay ahead? And why did she feel as though something, or someone, was waiting for her? The warriors marched a few paces behind, giving Zahara and Konu the lead. Her legs still ached from the lion's attack, but she refused to favor it.
Weakness had never been allowed in her life, and she would not start now.
Konu walked beside her, spear in hand, eyes alert.
How is your leg? He asked quietly.
Zahara exhaled, steadying herself. Better than yesterday.
Konu smirked.
I've seen mountains move slower than you healing.
Zahara rolled her eyes but smiled.
I'm not sure if that's an insult or a compliment. A compliment, he said softly, and the truth. She looked away, not because she didn't want to hear it, but because she wasn't used to receiving kindness without suspicion.
Hours passed.
The savannah slowly gave way to rocky plains and thorny bushes. The warriors grew tense as the terrain changed. This was no longer familiar ground. Late in the afternoon, they reached the borderlands, marked by tall rock spires shaped by wind and time. Strange markings scarred the stones, spirals, jagged lines, symbols older than the kingdom itself.
Zahara traced one with her fingers.
It felt cold, despite the heat of the day.
What are these? She whispered. Konu crouched beside her.
Old tribal warnings. These lands have always been different.
One of the warriors shuddered.
Spirits walk here.
Zahara straightened.
Then we will walk with courage. But courage could not silence the unnatural stillness that settled over the group. Even the wind felt wary, brushing past them hesitantly, as though unwilling to linger. As dusk approached, they made camp near a cluster of tall boulders. Zahara sat alone at the edge of the firelight, staring into the dark horizon where mountains pierced the sky like jagged teeth. Konu approached her, lowering himself to sit beside her. You're thinking again.
I can't help it.
What worries you most?
Zahara hesitated.
That I will fail, or that I will succeed and still remain unwanted. That no matter how much I fight, the world will never see me as anything but a weapon.
Konu's expression softened.
Zahara, listen to me.
She turned to him. You are not a weapon, he said.
You are a woman with a warrior's heart. Anyone who cannot see both is blind.
Her breath caught. But before she could respond, the wind changed. Cold. Sharp. Wrong.
The fire crackled, dimmed, then flared again. The warriors shifted uneasily. A low whisper floated across the stones. Not human, not animal, but something in between. Zahara felt the hair on her arms rise. Do you hear that?
Konu stood slowly.
Weapons. The whisper grew louder, curling around them like fog wrapping around bare skin. One of the warriors stepped forward to investigate, and a black shadow erupted from the darkness, sweeping through the air like a storm cloud, its shape shifting, twisting, bending. The warrior's spear passed through it as though stabbing smoke.
He froze. And then he fell, lifeless.
Zahara's heart slammed into her ribs.
Form a circle.
Keep the fire behind us. The warriors obeyed instantly, fighting back panic. The shadow creature hovered above them, swirling, pulsing, forming a vague shape, almost humanoid but distorted, its edges melting into darkness. Zahara stepped forward, gripping her spear.
Face me.
The creature hissed, a deep, rattling sound that vibrated inside her skull. Then it lunged. Zahara dodged, barely avoiding the cold sweep of its misty arm. The ground beneath her froze where it touched, the soil turning white and brittle like frost.
It freezes the earth, she whispered, eyes widening. It steals heat.
It feeds on warmth, Konu said, circling to flank it.
Stay near the fire. But the creature was fast. Too fast.
It rushed toward the flames, and the fire sputtered violently, shrinking as though suffocated.
No! Zahara shouted.
It's draining it.
Fear rippled through the warriors.
Zahara felt something colder than fear slip into her bones, a knowing.
This creature wasn't a random curse. It was something deliberate. Something summoned. Something meant to test her.
The shadows slid across the ground like spilled ink, rising behind her.
Konu saw it first.
Zahara!
She spun, too slow.
The creature struck her chest like an icy wave. She flew backward, slamming into a boulder hard enough to knock the air from her lungs. Pain exploded across her ribs.
She gasped, struggling to breathe.
Konu charged, swinging his spear desperately, forcing the creature back. But again, his strikes went through it uselessly. Zahara staggered to her feet, clutching her chest, vision blurring. The cold from the creature's touch seeped into her skin like poison.
Konu grabbed her arm.
Are you hurt?
She nodded weakly.
I can still fight. But she knew she couldn't last long. The cold inside her was spreading. The creature hissed again, this time louder, almost as if calling to something. The earth trembled. From the darkness, more shadows began to rise.
Warriors shouted in terror.
We cannot fight this many, one cried. We must retreat. But Zahara stepped forward, planting her feet.
No.
We end this now.
She didn't know how. She didn't have a plan.
But something deep inside her, a fire older than her strength, older than her scars, awakened. Her pulse began to throb, warm and powerful, fighting against the creature's cold grip.
Konu saw the shift in her.
Zahara, what are you doing?
She didn't answer.
Instead, she lifted her spear, closing her eyes for a moment. She saw her childhood, running through fields, lifting heavy logs just to prove she could. She saw the looks of disapproval, the whispers behind her back. She saw the fireman lion roaring inches from her face. She saw Konu placing the necklace around her neck with gentle hands. She saw herself reflected in the river, powerful but alone. But beneath all of that, she saw a girl who had never been given a chance to choose her destiny. A girl who now refused to let fear shape her path. Her eyes opened. She roared, a sound that shook the rocks, the shadows, the land itself.
The creature recoiled. Zahara charged.
And as she ran, something extraordinary happened. Her body, already strong, now glowed faintly with a warm golden light, like sunlight trapped beneath her skin.
Konu gasped.
By the ancestors.
Zahara's spear sliced through the creature. And this time, it reacted.
The shadow shrieked, fracturing like glass hit by a hammer. The golden light from Zahara's touch burned through it, disrupting its form. Zahara pressed forward, shouting, "You will not take my people." She thrust again, and the creature shattered, exploding into fading dark wisps. The smaller shadows that had risen froze, then dissolved into nothing.
Silence fell.
Zahara stood trembling, panting, her spear shaking in her hands. The golden glow faded slowly, leaving her exhausted. The warriors stared at her. Konu stepped closer, awe written across his face. "Zahara, what was that?"
She swallowed. Don't know. But deep inside, she felt something she had never sensed before. Power.
Not physical strength, but something spiritual, something ancient, something she did not understand. Before anyone could speak further, a sharp crack echoed across the rocks. Everyone turned. A man stood on a boulder overlooking the camp, tall, cloaked, carrying a carved staff that pulsed faintly with blue light. The same stranger who had watched her defeat the lion.
He raised his hand.
Princess Zahara.
Her heart stopped. How do you know my name? She demanded.
The stranger descended the rocks with calm, slow steps.
His cloak trailed behind him like a shadow of its own.
I know many things, he said, including the truth of what you are. Konu moved in front of Zahara protectively.
Who are you?
The stranger's mask hid his face, but his voice carried the weight of ages. I am the keeper of the four winds, he said. And I have waited for this moment since before the day Zahara was born.
Zahara stiffened.
Waited for me? Why?
The man raised his staff.
And the wind around them shifted, swirling. You are not merely strong, the stranger said. You are chosen. The wind whipped Zahara's braids back.
Chosen for what? She shouted.
The man stepped closer. To face the darkness that is coming, he said. A darkness far greater than shadows. The fire crackled. The warriors' breaths froze in their throats. Konu whispered, Zahara, what does he mean?
But Zahara could not answer.
Because in that moment, she felt the truth settle over her, heavy, frightening, but undeniable.
She thought she knew her purpose. She thought she knew her destiny. She was wrong.
Her true journey was only just beginning. Part 5. For many days, the kingdom of Yaduma recovered from the terror that had nearly erased it. The wounded were tended to, the burned homes were rebuilt, and the shamans performed cleansing rituals to drive out any lingering spirits of evil. The people walked around with renewed gratitude for life, whispering prayers of relief and speaking often of the warrior who had saved them.
That warrior was the very same princess they once mocked.
Ngala stood at the highest hill overlooking the entire valley, watching the rebuilding efforts from afar. Her huge frame, muscles carved like ancient stone, cast a long shadow across the golden grass. Her body still carried marks from the battle, claw wounds on her shoulder, a long scar across her ribs, and bruises that had not yet healed.
But she felt none of the pain.
Her spirit, for the first time, felt strangely quiet.
Not peaceful, not yet. Just quiet. She was still trying to understand what it meant to be seen differently.
Even though the people now looked at her with awe instead of fear, admiration instead of judgment, she still felt the weight of years. Years of rejection, whispered insults, forced loneliness, and the ache of never belonging. She touched her arm, remembering the countless moments she hid from her own reflection. For a long time, Ngala believed she was too much for the world.
Too strong. Too tall. Too loud. Too hard to love.
But now, as the wind ran through the grass and carried distant laughter from the village, she realized something powerful. She had never been too much. The world had simply expected too little. As she stood there, she heard footsteps behind her.
Princess, a deep voice said.
Ngala turned her head slightly and saw Nuru approaching, fearless, calm, and smiling gently. His clothes were torn from the battle, revealing the dark scars that covered his arms and the rough bandages wrapped around his hands. But his eyes, warm and steady, held no fear of her. Only respect. I thought you might be here, he said, stopping a few steps away. Watching over everyone, even while you bleed.
She let out a small breath.
I do not bleed anymore.
He lifted an eyebrow.
You are still human, Ngala.
She looked away.
Human, maybe.
But not like the others. Nuru walked closer until he stood at her side.
That is true, he said softly.
You are not like the others.
You are greater. Ngala closed her eyes, letting his words sink in.
They felt sincere, not flattering.
And yet, a part of her refused to believe them. Years of pain do not fade overnight. Do you know, she said quietly, When the monster had me pinned to the ground, I did not fear death. I feared that even in dying, I would still not be enough for my people. Nuru's expression softened, and he turned to face her fully. You were enough long before you ever fought that thing, he said. The people simply could not see it because they were blinded by tradition and fear. Ngala clenched her fists. Then why does it still hurt? Why do their praises feel like empty drums? Because, Nuru said gently, your wounds were made over many years. Healing takes time. Respect does not erase pain, but it can help you walk forward. Ngala exhaled slowly. He was right. She knew it. A long silence settled between them. The sun was beginning to set, painting the clouds with deep orange flames. Below them, smoke from cooking fires rose above the huts, carrying scents of roasted yam and pepper stew. Life was returning. Finally, Nuru spoke again, this time more hesitant. Ngala, when the council asked me who deserved the highest honor after the battle, do you know what I said? She turned her head slightly. Probably yourself, she said dryly. He laughed, a warm, deep sound. No. I said the honor belongs to you, and that Yaduma must never forget your name. Ngala felt something tighten in her chest. Nuru continued, voice lower. But I did not tell them the whole truth. Not the part that matters to me. She frowned. And what truth is that? He took a step closer. Slow, deliberate. His voice dropped, almost a whisper carried by the wind. That I have admired you long before this battle. Long before the people saw you as a hero. Ngala blinked, stunned. Admired me? For what? For everything, he said. Your strength, yes, but also your loyalty, your spirit, your heart that refuses to break. And your courage to stand alone, even when the world turned its back on you. Ngala stared at him, speechless. Nobody had ever spoken to her like that. Nobody had ever seen her as anything more than a frightening shadow, a woman too large to love, too tough to hold, too powerful to fit into the delicate roles tradition demanded. But Nuru saw her like she had always wished to be seen. As a person. A woman. A soul. A warm tremor spread through her chest. Nuru, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I do not know how to respond to such words. You do not have to, he replied with a smile. Not today. Not even tomorrow. Just allow yourself to be seen. Not as the princess you think the world needs, but as the woman you truly are. Ngala felt tears sting her eyes, something she hadn't felt in years. She quickly wiped them away. Then, from the village below, a loud horn blew, the royal horn. A messenger ran toward the hill. Princess Ngala, he called. The council summons you. The ceremony is ready. Ngala stood taller. Ceremony. Yes, the young boy said excitedly. The coronation. The people want to name you guardian of Yaduma, protector of the tribes. Her heart swelled with shock. A title never before given, to anyone. She took a long breath and glanced at Nuru, who nodded proudly. Go, he said. Let them honor you. They descended the hill together, the orange sky glowing behind them like a blessing. As they entered the village, people lined the path. Drummers, dancers, elders, children waving decorated palm leaves. Voices chanted her name rhythmically. Ngala, Ngala, Ngala. Some people bowed. Some touched her arm in gratitude. Others simply stared in awe, unable to believe that the woman they once mocked was the one who saved their lives. Ngala felt something shift inside her. Acceptance, not from the people, but from herself. She stepped onto the ceremony platform. The elders lifted a carved ivory tusk, painted with symbols of bravery and sacrifice. Elder Mafuna, voice trembling with emotion, spoke. Princess Ngala of Yaduma, for your strength, your courage, and your heart, we honor you with the highest title in the land. From this day forward, you are the guardian of Yaduma. The crowd erupted in cheers. Drums thundered. Children danced.
Women ululated loud enough to shake the skies.
Ngala bowed her head as the tusk necklace was placed upon her broad shoulders, its weight symbolic, powerful, deserving. And in that moment, as she stood in front of her people, she finally felt it. Not the acceptance she once begged for, but the belonging she always needed. Later that night, during the great feast, Ngala found herself sitting beside Nuru once again. The firelight flickered across his face as he leaned closer. "You chose to accept their honor," he said softly. "Now choose to accept your own worth." Ngala looked at him, feeling a warmth she had never allowed herself to feel. "Maybe," she whispered. "I am ready."
He smiled. "Good.
Because the world has been waiting for you." The drums beat louder, the stars shone brighter, and the fire crackled like it was celebrating her too. For the first time in her life, Ngala felt whole, not because the people finally praised her, but because she finally understood her truth.
Strength was not a curse. It was her gift. Her story. Her beauty.
And she would never hide it again. For in the heart of Africa, where spirits whisper through the baobab trees and legends live forever, the tale of Ngala, the big, muscular princess no man wanted to marry, became something far greater.
A story of courage. A story of identity.
A story of a woman who proved that true beauty is not shaped by expectation. As the fires of celebration burned long into the night and the stars watched proudly over the land of Yaduma, Princess Ngala's story became more than just a tale told by drums and tongues. It became a reminder to every soul who ever felt different, every heart that ever felt unseen, every spirit that was told they were too much, too strong, too bold, or too unfit to love. Ngala rose above judgment, above fear, above the weight of tradition. She learned that the world does not decide your worth, you do. And when you embrace who you truly are, even the mountains bow, even the storms part, even destiny itself steps aside to let you pass. Her legacy lived far beyond her muscles, her strength, or the battle she won.
It lived in her courage, in her spirit, in her decision to finally love the person she saw in the mirror.
And so, as the drums fade and the flames soften to embers, remember this.
True beauty is not in how others see you, but in how bravely you choose to be yourself.
Thank you for watching this African folktale. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful tales from around the world.
Until next time,
may your spirit stay strong, your heart stay brave,
and your journey stay blessed.